Alright, so I'm actually really excited for this one. I had a Korean fried chicken sandwich on my menu years ago, and it was probably my favorite dish I've ever had on a menu. This is a slightly more refined version of that sandwich and packs way more of a punch. If you like this video, give it a like and consider subscribing. I release new episodes every Tuesday and Thursday. And with all that being said, let's make a Korean fried chicken sandwich. The first thing we're going to do is make some pickles. I'm just using half of an English cucumber, and I'm also using a Japanese mandolin for this, but a knife works fine too if you don't have one. I'm going fairly thin with these because I want a lot of pickles on the sandwich, and the thinner they are, the higher you can pile them. And let's be honest, a sandwich or burger without pickles is it's just wrong. Anyway, once they're all sliced, hit them with some kosher salt and sugar. Give them a good mix to make sure everything is coated, then let them sit at room temperature for at least 20 minutes. In the meantime, we're going to make a kimchi mayo. Use homemade kimchi if you can, the flavor is generally better. You want to squeeze out as much of the kimchi juice as humanly possible, otherwise the mayo will end up really watery, and that's almost as terrible as a sandwich without pickles. Okay, I promise I'll let it go. We'll be using the reserved kimchi juice for later, so don't throw it out. I'm using a mixture of mayo and Japanese mayo, but you can use whatever you'd like. You do you. Start off on a lower setting to get things going, then turn it to high to make sure the kimchi is pureed and incorporated. Add a heaping tablespoon of gochujang Korean hot pepper paste and give it a mix. Now you're probably wondering why I didn't just add it to the blender initially, and there's a highly scientific reason for that. I forgot. So yeah. Let the mayo sit in the fridge for a few hours to allow the flavor to develop. By now the pickles will have let out most of their water. You don't need to rinse them off, just drain the excess. Cover them with either rice or white vinegar and set them aside. Next, we're going to make a slaw consisting of green cabbage, green onion, and daikon radish. When slicing cabbage, I like to peel the leaves off, then slice them, as opposed to slicing directly off of the head. This way the cabbage doesn't oxidize quickly and will last longer in the fridge. Thinly slice the green onion, then peel and thinly slice the daikon radish. Add everything to a bowl and mix. We're not going to be dressing the slaw, as there will be enough flavor in it without one. Plus, there's nothing worse than a soggy sandwich. Now, it wouldn't be Korean without something sweet, so in a small pan set to medium-low heat, add a quarter cup of honey and a heaping tablespoon of gochujang. You can add more or less depending on how hot you want the sandwich. Stir until the honey starts to bubble and the gochujang is well combined. We'll be drizzling this on top of the chicken. Now for the batter, we'll be using the same recipe from my original Korean fried chicken video all the way back in episode 4, but with a few tweaks. This time we'll be adding some garlic powder, ginger powder, and some onion powder. We'll also be adding the reserved kimchi juice from earlier. Slowly add the soda water and whisk until you reach a smooth pancake batter consistency. In another container, add a cup's worth of all-purpose flour, a teaspoon of kosher salt, and a quarter cup of gochugaru. You can add more if you want it hotter, just keep in mind the gochugaru will get a slight smoky flavor as it fries, so I don't recommend adding too much. Korean chili flakes give more flavor than they do heat. We'll also need a bowl with some cornstarch for dredging. I'm using skin-on, bone-in chicken thighs because they have the most flavor, stay juicy, and are hard to overcook. They're also a pretty perfect sandwich size. I won't go into super detail on how to debone a chicken thigh. You can check out the Korean fried chicken episode in the description for that. But essentially, I'm just taking a sharp knife, I'm using my filleting knife, and I'm making small cuts along the length of the thigh bone. Once I've exposed the bone, I'm going to take my finger and poke a hole underneath to pull it away further and allow me to slide the knife in. Then just scrape the bone down and detach the last piece. There's a ton of flavor in the skin, so leave that on. Heat a large heavy bottom pot with around 2 inches of a neutral oil like canola on medium-high. One at a time, dredge the chicken in the cornstarch, then in the batter, and shake off the excess. Then toss it in the flour mix. Don't worry about things clumping in the flour, that'll just make it more crunchy. Don't let them sit too long in the batter before frying, as the flour will start to harden and it won't be as light. Once the oil hits a temperature of 350 degrees Fahrenheit, carefully lower the chicken in. The temperature will reduce to around 300 degrees Fahrenheit, which will allow the crust to form without it getting too dark. We'll be frying them a second time, so work in batches. Give them a flip so they cook evenly on both sides, around 3 to 4 minutes per side. Then allow them to cool slightly while we increase the temperature to 375 degrees Fahrenheit. This double frying method is what's going to help them be nice and crunchy. If you've never had Korean fried chicken before, even after sitting in sauce for a few hours, it's still really crispy. Warm up the Gochujang honey just before you take the chicken out, then drizzle it all over and allow it to rest while we get the bun ready. I'm just using a white hamburger bun from a local bakery here in town that I'm going to toast with some butter. Add a very generous amount of the kimchi mayo to both sides and load the bottom up with pickles. Give the pickles a good squeeze first so they don't make the bun all soggy. Add the fried chicken and slaw, then top the chicken with a bit more of the honey, cause why not? And that's it, Korean fried chicken sandwich. This is my favorite chicken sandwich, but let me know down in the comments what yours is. Thanks for watching. If you like this video, give it a like and consider subscribing. You can also follow me on Facebook and Instagram for more content.